Set in the kingdom of Ebb, the story follows a man called the Farmer, Jason Statham, an orphan who was adopted by a small village. When Farmer's wife, Solana, Claire Forlani, and his son, Zeph, Colin Ford, leave to sell vegetables at the town of Stonebridge, his farm is attacked by creatures called Krug. With the help of his friend and mentor, Norik, Ron Perlman, he fights off the Krug and travels to Stonebridge. The Krug, controlled by the wizard Galleon, Ray Liotta, attack Stonebridge as well. Although Farmer fights them, he is unable to save his son Zeph and Solana's parents. Meanwhile, the wizard Galleon feeds incubus-like on Merrick's daughter Muriela, Lili Sobieski, and taps into her magical bloodline. This gives him the power to amass and control an army of Krug to overthrow King Conread. The king's nephew, Duke Fallow, Matthew Lillard, a good-for-nothing roue, has let Galleon into the castle to conspire against the king. He asks Galleon about their plan, who in turn asks him what he knows of the man called Farmer. The king's magus, Merrick, John Rhys Davies, detects that there is something special about Farmer when King Conrad, Burt Reynolds, and his entourage arrive to comfort Stonebridge. Merrick asks Norik if they have met before. It seemed that Merrick comes to know something special about Farmer. He meets Farmer and tells him that the king needs him more than he realizes, who refuses to acknowledge his request and leaves to find and rescue his wife, who has been captured, accompanied by Norik and Bastian, Will Sanderson, his brother-in-law. When the king returns to his castle, he finds Fallow playing around wearing his crown, sitting on the throne. Fallow impatiently orders Galleon to accelerate their plan. Galleon goes to Muriela's chamber to be with her, where she shows her disapproval for him entering her chambers as and when it pleases him, without her wish. She tells him to leave when he ridicules her father. Fallow tries to appease the king while having dinner with him. Farmer, along with his two friends, are passing through a seemingly dangerous Cedric forest, which Norik disapproves as there has been stories about the presence of things in there. Some forest nymphs hangs them upside down, and their leader, Elora, Kristana Loken, tells them to leave the forest and never return again. Through Duke Fallow, Galleon had already poisoned the king when Muriela requests the king that she wishes to help as she can feel something wrong. Just then, the king faints due of the poison. Meanwhile, Fallow meets Galleon, and it seemed that he too had been accidentally poisoned while dining with the king. Galleon gives him an antidote after reminding him who has the real power. General Hallett, Ron Selmore, informs Commander Teresh, who in turn tells Merrick that Fallow has fled the castle, taking 2/3 of the army and other guards with him. Merrick figures that Fallow has actually poisoned the king and suspects Galleon's hand in it. Merrick confronts Muriela about her involvement with Galleon and tells her what wrong she has done. She apologizes wholeheartedly. Elora helps Farmer, Norik, and Basbian to find their way out of the forest as they tell her that they are lost. She leaves as they reach across the forest where Krugs are there. The healed king is informed by Merrick about Fallow's treachery. Farmer, Norik, and Bastian infiltrates the captives' camp to find Solana. Just when Farmer finds her, they are taken captives by the Curbs. The next morning, the healed king and the army leaves the castle to battle with Krugs. Through a Krug, Galleon asks Farmer about his identity as he sees danger in him. He is about to hang Farmer, but he manages to kill the Krug. Norik and Bastian are also taken captive in the same cage as Solana, where Bastian informs her about their parents and her son. Norik consoles Solana, telling her that Farmer will come to her rescue as he must, and he needs her. Merrick, who has felt that Farmer is in danger, finds and rescues him from the ropes. Muriela feels guilty of breaking her father's trust and wishes to commit suicide. But her handmaiden, Talwyn, Tanya Saulnier, reminds her of her father's love for her, and Muriela leaves the castle, determined to prove herself worthy of her father's trust and love. When Merrick brings the injured Farmer to the king's camp, a surprised Teresh asks him why was a dirt lover, Farmer, of such importance. Merrick tells him that Farmer is of special interest for the king, who too isn't aware of that. He commands Farmer to be taken to the king's tent, where he reveals to both king and Farmer of Farmer's real identity. Farmer refuses to believe it, saying that he had no parents and leaves the tent. The king asks Merrick angrily that how can it be, as he told him 30 years ago, that his 3-year-old son had been dead in a massacre. Merrick says that what the gods do is for good, because if the little boy had been in the castle, he could have been killed by king's enemies. Farmer grew safe and strong in Stonebridge, though. The next morning, Merrick makes Farmer understand that the king and the kingdom needs him. In the forest, Teresh tells the soldiers that whosoever is with Fallow will be considered as traitor, while Fallow accuses him back for poisoning the king. He is then surprised to see the king with Tarish, who tells him that he can never be a king. General Backler, Mike Dopud, with 11th and 12th Legion of soldiers, then join the king. Tarish, who is still unknown of Farmer's real identity and is skeptical of him, tells Farmer that he will keep an eye on him. The big climatic battle between King's army and Krugs begins. Muriela, who seeks to join the king in the battle, is pursued by a Krug. Tarish develops faith in Farmer during the battle. Fallow shoots the king to death and runs away from the battlefield. The battle ends when the king's men manage to kill all the Krugs on the battlefield. Fallow, who is returning to the castle, hoping to finally become king, is then attacked by the forest nymphs, Elora and Muriela, who take him back to the battlefield. Meanwhile, Norik, Bazbane, and Solana are taken to Galane's den where they are supposed to become slaves. Norik, who refuses to be a slave, dies courageously fighting with the Krugs, while Bazbane and Solana try to flee but are recaptured. At the camp, the king appreciates Farmer's courage. The king realizes that he is indeed his lost son when Farmer quotes a line that King used to tell his son every night. Just before dying, he accepts him as his son and tells him to take up the kingdom after him. At the battlefield, Fallow is forced to fight Commander Tarish. He is about to be slain when someone yells that King is dead. Fallow, who by rule is now the new king, is happy as Tarish, bound by honor, can't kill the king. Merrick then announces that the king is dead and that Farmer is Camden Conrad, the king's long-lost son. Farmer is then declared the new king of Ab. Galleon finds out about Farmer being the new king through one of his Krugs. He also realizes that he has Farmer's wife in his captive. When she asks him how he knows she is Farmer's wife, he tells her that he can feel him in her as she is carrying his son, that is, she is pregnant with Farmer's child. Farmer leads a small team, including himself, Muriela, Elora, and Merrick, to rescue his pregnant wife from Galleon. Merrick dies to distract Galleon so that Farmer can sneak in with the help of Elora. While the forest nymphs join the army to fight against the Krugs, Bastion tries to stage a breakout. Muriela becomes the new Magus, and together Muriela and Farmer fight Galleon until Solana stabs him with a sword, and Farmer cuts his throat off. As soon as Galleon is killed, Krugs retreats themselves. Farmer finally confesses his love for Solana verbally, which he had never done before.